Welcome to the Au Jus. I'm your host, BeefLoaf. This show is being sponsored by our friends Punky's Pizza and Pasta, located at 2600 South Wallace, my personal favorite eatery in the neighborhood. They have the best selections of pizzas and pastas, as well as sandwiches and salads of any spot in Bridgeport. Currently, they have what they are calling the Pizza Happy Hour, Mondays and Tuesdays only, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. You order a pizza from Punky's, and you get 50% off. Yes, you heard that correctly. 50% off of pizzas ordered Mondays and Tuesdays between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. How in the world can you get 50% off the best pizza in Bridgeport, the Pizza Happy Hour? Hit the website, punkyspizza.com, for all your carryout or delivery needs, or to cater your next party. You can also call 312-842-2100. The Scarlotta family will take care of you. Punky's Pizza and Pasta. This show is also being powered by you, the loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, turn on notifications, and most definitely super chat, because that's how we get paid, and that's how we continue to make the content you know and love. Tonight's guest, unfortunately, is just me. We've had some electric guests lately on the Au Jus. Tonight is just going to be me pontificating. We're on an off night as well. Usually we do this on Monday night, 6 o'clock. Then we're doing Tuesday, a few minutes short of 6 o'clock. I wanted to see what it looked like when I started at an off time. See if anyone actually would show up. You can order Punkies now. Order it right now. Yeah, get it. You don't have to do it after the show. We're past 4 o'clock. Order that shit right now, man. Get the 50% off pizzas. My guy, my Sock Summer, when he did it, he ordered 2 pizzas. So it was like getting 2 for 1. That's a good approach there. Yeah, so we're talking a little White Sox tonight. And it's typical for a BeefLoaf show, as you all come scurrying in and checking out the YouTube. If you're watching, feel free to throw up a super chat if you're on YouTube, and I will answer questions as we go throughout the show. But no pressure to do so. If you're just feeling like you want to sit back, relax, and strap it down with old loaf and listen to a couple thoughts I have about the White Sox, we'll hit that up instead. We'll do that. What I really want to talk about to start here is it's late May, but already the trade value discussions are beginning out on the interwebs. I saw over the weekend John Heyman was saying the Mets, no interest yet in Luis Robert. Today I saw the Scrum was asking Luis Robert what he thought about his trade value, if it bothers him or whatever. And Luis's answer was basically like, he's been so bad, he doesn't think anyone would be interested in him. There's Luis Robert there. And Luis Robert has struggled at the plate mightily. He had a rough year in 2024. Coming off of that, he had great spring training, and then his 2025 regular season has been brutal. A not so nice 69 WRC plus, 186 batting average, 281 on base, 308 slug. The walk rate is looks good, almost 12%. The strikeout rate is buttressing 29% at this point, but it's the lack of power. It's the same stuff going back to the end of last year where he just wasn't hitting those mistakes very hard or far. And so that's really making up the difference. Also for poor Luis, he's at a career low BABIP right now, 240. Usually he's in the 320 range. That would make a big difference in his current numbers if he was getting more singles even just to fall in there by mistake. None of that shit is happening yet for Luis. But one of the thoughts I had upon hearing all this stuff, and there's been a lot of panic, and a lot of White Sox fans are very frustrated with Luis so far in this season. I have contended the whole time Luis is still playing hard, and I still contend that. The outfield play still looks good to me. He's making great plays in the gaps and over by the wall. He's made a couple really nice plays this year. He's got 17 stolen bases, so when he gets on base with those walks, he is trying to make use of his legs. I don't think he's a player, in my opinion, who has given up. Luis Robert Jr. has not given up. I think he still wants to be a very good player. But what I think has happened over the last 2 seasons, and I don't think that John Heyman's correct. I think the Mets are interested. I think other teams are interested in that need a center fielder for the stretch run. But I think what has happened already, and no hot streak can buoy this for Luis Robert. I don't think he's capable of putting together a hot streak that's going to change this. His trade value has permanently been depressed from where it was previous, where after 2023, when he looked like a real difference maker on a squad, a top player, a top 20 player in baseball, I think that is all gone. But I think a lot of teams would be willing to gamble on a guy with a high floor, particularly the defense and the speed, and who could make, who could get on a hot streak and really change the course of a couple weeks of ball, push you into the playoffs, or get a hot streak in the playoffs. Actually, Luis in the past, he was only a playoff performer in 2020 and 2021, but he hit well in the playoffs, and so a lot of teams have ridden the streak of let's just grab a guy and see if we can get hot. Now, at a depressed price. Obviously, I think if we're looking at Luis Robert now, you're not gonna get any game changers, even if he gets hot as a pistol these next couple months. I just think teams have seen what the floor looks like, how bad it can get. They know how high Luis can get. They know how good he can hit when he's in a hot streak. But I don't think that's going to matter anymore. I think just haven't seen all that. So I think I look at the Randy Arozarena trade when he got sent to Seattle from Tampa as an example of probably where Luis is at, give or take. You got 145 plus player coming back in 140. So basically one guy who you think might become a big league regular, and then a lottery ticket. I think is probably the range you're in looking at with Luis. It's disappointing coming from where we came from with Luis. But I think we're pretty much in that pocket right there. The only thing in my mind that could really change it is if the demand increases, if teams get extra desperate for him. Right now, the supply of legit center fielders seemingly on the trading block are looking to be Luis and Cedric Mullins. That could change. I mean, things could change from there as to who might get dealt. But really, there's not a lot of answers out there. So for a playoff team that desperately needs a center fielder, I think the band with which you're going to get back for Luis is pretty set. And the only thing that could really change it is if he got injured. I mean, which, fingers crossed that does not happen. So I'm done worrying about Luis Roberts' hot streak. I think we'll have another couple hot streaks before he leaves here. And I don't know what his stats will look like in late July when he gets traded somewhere. But he's going to be owed $6 million for the final 2 months. It's $15 million salary, so that's over 6 months. The last 2 months would be worth $6 million, and then $2 million buyout. That's only $8 million all in if someone wants to go as cheap as possible. So it's not very costly. I think there'll be many suitors to gamble, and especially at the depressed price. Next up in trade value discussions, my guy Trezy wrote a blog. I didn't realize I was getting that version of Matt Thaiss. He wrote a blog about Matt Thaiss. A lot of fans were like, "Oh, Corey Lee's coming back. Time to send Matt Thaiss out to pasture. Fuck him. He's he's nothing. We're not going to worry about him." When in reality, he's having kind of a nice year. He's been very solid behind the plate. He's got a 107 WRC plus. He's walking almost 20% of the time. The on-base percentage is 376. Every team can use a left-handed hitting catcher with a 376 on-base percentage. Now, you're not going to get a lot for a Matt Thaiss, but this is an example of what the White Sox are trying to do more often. The White Sox traded for him with cash considerations. My guy Wally Money. Cash considerations to lasso him in here, kind of help him fix what's going on, keep him healthy, show what he can do, and then boom, hopefully you can flip him in July and get an interesting prospect. I look at the what the White Sox did with Tanner Banks, my guy Tanner Blanks, who actually might end up being a late inning guy now in Philadelphia after Jose Alvarado's out of there with the drug suspension. And they flipped him for an interesting prospect. William Bergoya is in Double-A right now. He's playing good shortstop. He only strikes out 7% of the time, makes a lot of contact. You don't know what you're going to get, but really what you want to do is find these opportunities, very small opportunities, and see if you can flip out of them. And Matt Thaiss is a guy who I think they're going to be able to do that with. Even though he looks like he's always holding on a fart, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some trade value for Thaiss. And these are the types of things that when you're a bad team like this, realize that, flip out of it, and get some interesting 19 or 20-year-old. Let's go, And James, you don't need to apologize. Thaiss is better than Lee. You don't need to apologize. He has been better than Lee. There's no question about that. So, yeah, I would assume he continues to play. I would assume that Lee, they'll stretch out his rehab as long as possible to try to avoid using that last option, but I think they're going to end up using that last option. But Thaiss, for all the people like, oh, just DFA Thaiss because he's the guy you don't know that well. Corey Lee better, and Corey Lee is younger. Thaiss is a guy that they should continue to play and look for, try to get some trade value out of. Last guy I want to talk about on the trade value that's been discussed out there on Twitter. I saw a discussion about Shane Smith. Now, Shane Smith's only 10 starts into his major league career. The White Sox picked him up Rule 5 from the Brewers, and he's been at one of these happy accidents, a pleasant-ass surprise for Shane Smith to come in here and really be the best starting pitcher on the staff. He went from, maybe they'll use the guy in the bullpen a little bit and try to harness him and keep him on the roster, to this is your best starting pitcher. And now I like that there was discussion about, should the White Sox trade this guy? Should you flip out of this guy immediately? And I don't think you should, but I think the discussions are worth having, and it's a type of thought experiment that is valuable to do. The only problem is, because the guy has just been picked in Rule 5, less than 6 months ago-ish, even if he's had a good performance for the first 10 starts, I don't think that's going to change the market value substantially enough where you would feel like, oh, yeah, this is someone we absolutely have to move. I think it takes time. It'll take a full season. And I think he'll probably be on some sort of innings limit as well. I don't know that he's going to run up 150 innings or something like that too. But the discussion is worth having, looking at guys like that, looking at Shane Smith or anyone. Although I don't think they would do it now. I think in 2-3 years, if the arbitration number starts getting a little higher, he gets into arbitration, and even if the White Sox are a decent team, I think should Chris Getz still be the GM, and should they still be cash strapped and not have the Ishbia inflows at this point, I think they're going to be the type of team that is going to flip out of good players as they get more expensive and try to reseed the farm. We watched that just happen with the White Sox where they had no depth and they had nowhere to go with it. They couldn't do anything. I think this group will be earlier to pull the trigger and trade out of guys. I don't think you're going to trade a guy after 10 starts, good track record so far for Shane Smith, but I just have a feeling that's just not going to happen at this point. And what I'd say, too, about all three of these guys and just any trades that the White Sox are going to make, and I said this about the Garrett Crochet trade, in the grand scheme, they've got to do this stuff, but then they've got to do everything else in and around it. So that trade individually won't matter that much to the success of the next team. Even if they hit on all four guys in the Garrett Crochet trade, do you think they'll be good right now with just hitting on them four guys, or do they got to do a lot of more stuff, right? They got to do a lot more to fill in around this stuff. So I wouldn't worry about any trade individually, but I think it is good if the White Sox can find takers for some of these guys on the roster and can flip out of them and can start to pour in some interesting players, because as we're going to get into in a second, the core is starting to develop in my mind, and there isn't a lot of high ceiling in it, but at least there's a lot of what I would deem as like 2-3 win players. Yeah, a lot more. That's right. A lot more, in my opinion, right? They got to do a lot more. So don't worry about any individual trade. Just keep doing them. We have to keep doing all this stuff. Keep grinding, as they would say. I want to talk about the core quickly, but I'm a little sip of Strohs in the meantime. The Strohs, I'm down to the bitter end of my Strohs. I only got a few left here. Delicious. All right, I'm putting the core spreadsheet up. It is a little early. But I'm going to put this up at the end of May. I'll put it on Twitter. But for now, I'll share with all you guys watching the show. I do have Edgar Carroll added to the group now. I have Chase Mydroth added to the group now, and I've got Miguel Vargas added to the group. All three guys have shown me enough that they'll be part of this group. Vargas especially. Vargas hitting the ball out of the ballpark all of a sudden and sort of utilizing them extra, the extra 20 pounds that he put on, the rice and beans in the offseason. Really showing me a lot. Thank you, Nathan. He says, "Ooh, the core started to develop." I appreciate the drink, Nathan. I appreciate you. And it really is. Now, I would say that the group that we have here, maybe Vargas aside, the ceilings aren't that particularly high. You have more high floor players. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Building a team with a lot of 2-win players is a good strategy, because then you don't need to have a lot of superstars, but you're going to need a couple if you really want to go anywhere. But Carroll's shown me enough behind the plate as well as with the bat. Now, to me, he's still a work in process. Like Edgar Carroll, today is not fully formed. Like, he's not getting to any of the power yet, and you really expect that to be about 15 home run power. There's still mistakes behind the plate. I mean, you see it often, even just in his approach to framing and those types of things. He's been accurate with the arm, which has been nice. So that's a good start. Mydroth looks like exactly as advertised. Actually, truthfully told, he's been better at shortstop than I was expecting. I have him in here on the core list as a second baseman, not as a shortstop, because I think that's eventually where he's going to be. And I think he can probably be a plus defender at second. But his early metrics, and I don't really look at individual defensive metrics this early on guys. I usually try to wait a little bit longer to let some of that stuff crystallize. But they look good. And to the eye test, he looks like maybe he's a little overmatched at short, but he seems okay. He doesn't seem like he'll kill you at shortstop. So, that's a good thing to have. Vargas has looked good with the glove. And then since the hand position change, I mean, he's getting to all of his power, which is really nice to see. He's a patient hitter. I mean, Miguel Vargas, even, early in the season was giving you, 9-10% walk rate. He's still giving you that. It's a sub 17% K rate. That's really encouraging. I mean, if he got a few more base hits to fall in there, he would have really great numbers right now after starting off ice cold. I'm getting really close to just removing Luis Robert from this sheet completely. because I don't have any belief that they would hang on to Luis Robert beyond the trade deadline. And I also don't think that what Luis Robert brings back is necessarily going to give you like an auto piece to this core. So my thought is kind of like, well, that's, that thing's kind of, it's kind of over. So I may take him off before I publish this at the end of May out to the Twitterverse. Obviously, I've been Benintendi. He's stuck here with his salary and constant injuries. The starting pitching is looking promising. I really just kind of had Smith on here before, and then I had the other guys jammed into one slot as fifth starters. But since then, Jonathan Cannon and Davis Martin have both been really impressive, actually. I mean, they are pitching their asses off, their proverbial asses off at this point in the season. I mean, both guys have sub 4 ERAs for the year, and that's through, effectively 10 starts. We'll count the opportunities they had with the opener in front of them as starts as well. And their underlying metrics, some of the nerd stats, are starting to close the gap. There was a little bit of a wide gap in there, but not anymore. They're starting to close up a little bit. And so, I think Shane Smith has the higher upside of the three here. I think what we're looking at here is Martin and Cannon are kind of settling into those back end rotation guys, which is nice. You're going to need those guys. I mean, you're going to need to you're going to need to pile those guys up, and they're going to need to have a bunch of depth here. And so, impressive to see so far. I took White Lurie, Brooks Baldwin off the list. Apologies to all who love White Lurie. Just him getting sent down, his recent struggles. I think he ends up still as the utility guy for this team. He's got good size. He can get to some power sometimes. So I think he eventually comes back. But it felt weird having a guy on here who's just like in the minors and really fucking sucked for a while. So I decided to pull him off here. Let me get to this. Drinks from Sox Optimist. He says, San Diego desperate for left fielders. Tried Gavin out there the other night and went as expected. Hilarious. Maybe Benny. Oh, that's a good point, Optimist. Let me get to this drink of the Stroh. It's delicious. I guess the one thought I would have about them, though, is if I remember correctly, because the owner passed away, they were kind of cutting payroll quite a bit there. And so I don't know if they'd need Jerry to pick up some of the Benny's salary. But yeah, I mean, it's at the point where it's gotten to be a reasonable per year. I think it's 15 per year. And guys aren't making that, that's not an unwielding salary for a guy that hits enough and plays left field. But I guess we'll see. I would appreciate it if the White Sox did try to shop Benny a little bit. That would be nice. That'd be absolutely nice, But thank you for the drink, Optimist. But there is the seedlings of a core coming together here. Nothing so far in the bullpen is showing me anything at this point. And, just trying to think about who could be next on this list. Is there anyone close? I don't think there's anyone close at this point for me creeping up into the group, at least that are hanging around here. And so we'll be for a little while. We're just going to be watching these guys, and then we'll see what promotions happen. I suspect over the next couple months, they're going to continue churning and burning in this outfield. Like, I don't know how long Austin Slater and Mike Tauchman and those types of guys stay on the roster. I assume Michael Taylor stays here so he can play center field when Luis is gone for those last 2 months. But the rest of it seems up for grabs, and it just wouldn't shock me if they tried to flip out of some stuff. All right, a couple more quick topics, and I'll get my ass out of here. I want to talk about Tim Elko versus Andrew Vaughn, okay? I heard Will Venable get asked the question out in these Twitter streets, what's the deal with these two guys? And he tried to say, well, they're not pitted against each other. We let Andrew know Tim's coming up, blah, blah, blah. But the way that Chris Getz has managed this roster this year and the way that Will Venable likes to run a baseball game, it sure as fuck is Tim Elko versus Andrew Vaughn, okay? In no uncertain terms, because Getz likes to have a team that is damn near positionless. He wants guys that can move around and play a lot of spots. He does not want a couple of dead right-hand hitter only DH first base types. He does not want a roster like that. And I don't know if that's just a natural inclination or feeds into what Venable likes. Venable likes making a lot of moves. I mean, you guys have seen it so far. He hasn't Pedro Grifaldo himself where he's basically running out of players in the seventh inning. But he likes to make a lot of moves. He likes to use all parts of the team. And it's tough to use those right, first base DH onlys. It's hard to get a lot out of them, right? They're not going to have the platoon advantage. Obviously, you can't slide them anywhere. And this roster has guys you could slide to first. Lenine Sosa looks totally fine at first when you need to slide him over there. And Miguel Vargas looks totally fine over there, too. So It absolutely is these two versus each other. My thing here is we're getting closer and closer to the point where they're going to start thinking about giving up on Andrew Vaughn. Treasy and I talked to someone before the season about this, a Sox person off the record. And they said to us, Andrew Vaughn's exactly the type of hitter that if he were just out there for $5 or $6 million, we should be bringing him in and trying to fix him. And I thought, okay, that makes some sense. I kind of see what you're saying here. It makes sense. So why would you just foist him out there out on the free agency and just let him go? Why would you just not tender the guy? But now we've watched it for a couple months, and it just doesn't look like the upside is there. There's just not enough power. There's never been enough power, really, to make it all work. And he's just not hitting enough line drives to make, even if he hits the ball hard, it's pounding into the ground, a guy with no speed. I just think you're looking at, there's nothing here. Like, there's no return here. And even if he gets it right for a couple months and gets hot, what do you get out of it? I don't know that there's any that you get out of it. I'm starting to look at Benintendi coming back and them kind of looking at, well, do we really want to option Tim Elko and not continue to give him this extended run? Or what? Like, I think there's a decision to be made there. And it would be shocking if Andrew Vaughn was like out on his ass on June 2nd. But would it really be shocking? And like, why would you want to take time away from Elko? I don't know that Tim Elko is going to be anything, but we better get a look at him. We should get a look at him this year. And I understand it would be easier in August and September to get a look. But if the other guy's not performing, I don't know. This is kind of where the rubber hits the road. I'm sorry. So it is them versus each other. And it was funny that Andrew hit home runs kind of right away. Okay, against them. So I guess we'll see. But if I were the White Sox, I'd be looking to rip the Band-Aid off. And truth be told, I think there is a level of, if you're not producing, kind of show, hey, this guy was a longtime veteran, but guess what? He's not getting the job done. And we're just going to get him out of here. You want to reward guys who are doing the work for things that you want. And I don't know what it looks like behind the scenes. Maybe he's done everything they've asked of, and the shit's just not working out. I have no idea. But at some point, I need to see what Tim Elko can do. And he may not be a guy. But if he is a guy, let's find out this fucking year. I want to know kind of right away. So it is versus them too. It'll be interesting to see when Andrew Benintendi's ready to come back. If the White Sox say, Tim Elko, we're going to send you back to Charlotte. We'll see you in a little bit. You'll be back up here soon. Or if they're willing to rip the Band-Aid off and say, all right, Andrew, it's been real. Get out of here. We'll see you. Let me get to this drink right here. Danny Reyes, my man. He says, at work, I'm going to run this back and drive home. Cheers, people. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate you. And Nathan Shiva says, so I can infer from your tone, Beef, that you're reasonably happy with the moves Getz is making. Hashtag tough on Han. I don't know. I like the approach. I like Getz's general approach where they're trying a lot of stuff. And they're doing weird stuff with the minors too, where if someone's not working out, they're sending Colson Montgomery, sending them to boot camp. 2 weeks out there, we're gonna fix this right now. And it's an interesting approach. It's not something I'm used to, but I kind of like the way they're doing it. I like the way they're trying all these guys. I like the way they tried to shovel in as many Rule 5 guys as possible. Obviously, Shane Smith's working great. Mike Fassel's pitching pretty good too. He's been a little lucky. You'll say that. Like if you look at his peripherals, he's been lucky. And they were trying to add another one, Gage Workman. They understand what the assignment is. Drag in as much talent as possible, see what they can figure out, evaluate as fast as they can, and kind of get through these guys because that's kind of going to be the fastest path. And granted, it doesn't look like much yet, right? And let me pull the core back up here. It is starting to develop. It's starting to percolate a little bit. It doesn't look like much yet. But you got to remember, they're going to pick in the top 10 in the coming draft that's going to be coming up in a couple months here. Then turn around for next year, they're going to pick in the top 5 more than likely again. So they're going to get some more bites at the apple. And there'll be a high pick in Rule 5 draft again. And maybe they can grab a guy there. So it's a way to go. There's a way to go, but I kind of like the approach so far. Last topic here. And I don't know. I get curious about guys. When I don't hear about them for a while, I'm like, where the fuck is this guy? And that's my play cousin, Brian Ramos. You can put this motherfucker on a milk carton. I haven't heard shit about dude in a long time. And I guess it turns out that Ramos, he was originally going to be the heir apparent, Christopher Maltasanti, to third base. And we've forgotten about that now that Miguel Vargas showed up and is playing good defense or whatever. And we're kind of not thinking about him. Ramos is in AAA. He's in Charlotte. He was hurt to start the year. Came back. Hasn't really hit that much. He's controlling the strike zone well, but the power's just not showing up yet there. They are playing him at third every day is what it looks like. But here's a guy who we were kind of like, this guy is ready to be in the majors. And he got called up a little hastily last year. although he was on the 40-man already, so it's kind of forced the hand or whatever. He in some games he looked tuned in, looked like he had control of the strike zone. Defensively, in some games he looked good, in other games he looked lost. So it was a mixed bag there. The overall performance was not that great, and he ended up getting optioned back down and resuming in AAA. But this is like another guy who's kind of like off our radar again, but then like it could develop and the guy could become a player here. But I'm interested to see like what they do with him, what they do with Colson Montgomery, some of these guys that are starting to pile up a little bit, get to the, Ramos is at the end of his rope. Ramos, I think, is down to his final minor league option. And so they're going to have to make a real decision on him pretty soon. Like next year it would be, the man's got to be on the major league roster or you got to get him, pass him through waivers. And so I'm interested to see like what the next few months look like for guys like him, for guys like Dominic Fletcher, who they seem to have written off, for guys like Corey Julks, who's been red hot in Charlotte, Montgomery. There's a bunch of guys. I mean, even Corey Lee, I think, is going to be down in Charlotte with this group. It's like there's going to be opportunities come the second half of the season for people, and I want to see who are going to be the ones in position to seize them. Who's going to be in position to get added to the core group, because there's a lot of openings here, and all these guys got to do is come up and hit. So I haven't seen Brian Ramos. I went and looked up his stats. He is still alive. He is still playing. So I'm happy for that. So anyway, that's good. Let me get to this drink. John now he says, "Hey Beef, just wanted to check in, say what's up. Cheers, John. Good to hear from you, my friend. We miss you sometimes on Thursday night. Pop in there on 108 Pop. Delicious Strohs. Thank you, my friend. All right, I think it's time for me to get out of here. That's enough for today. Throwing down. Let's get to the next week's guest. For Memorial Day, nothing. We're going to be off, so that's May 26th. When we come back with the Au Jus on June 2nd, I will have Ken W.O. up here. It'll be good to have Ken back. I haven't had Ken on yet this year. He's a big Vargas guy. He's been a big Guts guy. He's getting into fights daily on Twitter. Him and James Fox and BZ and a bunch of people battling each other. So I'm interested to hear what my guy Ken W.O. has to say. That'll be June 2nd. We'll start back up on guests again. We'll get some of my usuals back in here. We'll get some new people in here. We've been trying to dig into Sox Twitter a little more because I think we just have been neglecting having the conversations amongst ourselves. And it's good. We need to have it. So definitely going to do that. Thanks to Punky's Pizza and all the One-Way fans up in the YouTube comments. I appreciate all the smash the like button, drinks, and the tips. Nice job tonight coming out for the BeefLoaf solo show. Everyone be good. We'll see you on Thursday night, One-Way podcast. We're debating if we try to have a guest, but we'll see you then. And I love all of you. Bye-bye.